What's up? What's happening? Welcome to episode 6 of Pimp My Bike, the final installment. And we're going to do a bike check and talk about the changes and how they've affected the handling. So let's kick off. This is my Scott Spark. It's a 900 edition, 29-inch wheels, 120 millimeters of travel on the rear. It's a size large. I'm 189 centimeters, about 6'2", and I feel it fits really well for me. Up front, I've got a Fox 34, 130 millimeters of travel. We changed it from 120 to 130, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. The drivetrain, that comes from Shimano. It's an XT group set, got a 170 millimeter crank, paired with a 32 tooth chainring. The cassette, that's 10 tooth, all the way up to 51 tooth, giving me a massive range, meaning that I can climb up basically anything. The wheels, Wear One composites. They're handmade in Kamloops in BC. That's a faction rim. It's perfect for this bike. It's designed for kind of all mountain riding. It's a little bit narrower than the Union, which is their Enduro rim. For the tires, knobby nick on the rear, Magic Mirror in the front. The knobby nick, that is 29 by 2.35. It's a soft compound with a Super Trail casing. And then up front, we've got the Magic Mary 29 by 2.4. Again, that's in that soft compound and the Super Trail casing. I feel that is a perfect pairing for this bike. Got something really grippy up front and fast rolling on the rear. For the brakes, Shimano XT 2-piston, and we've got 180 millimeter rotors, both front and rear, and they've got that IceTech technology to help with the cooling. Got the Fox transfer post, 150 millimeters of drop. We've got the Griffin off-road saddle from Pro. That's 142 millimeters in width. And then for the bars, these are the Pro Tharsis 3.5, 800 millimeters in width, 20 millimeter rise. We've got the Pro Tharsis 3.5 stem, that's 55 millimeters. I've got a 20 millimeter spacer under there. It just gives me the perfect setup on the bike. Finishing off, I've got those Pro Tharsis grips and XT brake levers connected with iSpec EV. And then of course, Scott's proprietary Twinloc system on the left-hand side, giving me 3 different modes. So I've got an open, got traction control, and a climbing position that basically controls the suspension, both of the fork and the rear shock, so I can get the maximum out of it. Right, let's dive into the details that we changed: the forks, the drivetrain brakes, the wheels and tires, and then setting it up. In the first episode, I changed out the fork. I went from a 120mm fork to a 130 fork. Now that did a couple of different things. It raised the front end up, slackened the head angle, but in turn also lifted the bottom bracket ever so slightly. And this had a number of effects on the handling. It made it a little bit more aggressive, just having that extra travel. With the bottom bracket, I can't say I noticed much of a difference. It was, really marginal amounts. But on the descents, I felt like the bike was more capable. I could really push it into some of the rougher terrain. I was using all that 130 millimeters, and we did take some time to actually set the fork up, dial in the rebound, the compression, and also the volume spacers. And of course, we can't not talk about the color. It was an all black fork before, and then I moved on to the 34, the factory edition, with those orange lures, and it just really made the whole bike kind of just pop and brightened it up. For the drivetrain and brakes, I upgraded from Shimano Dior to XT. Dior is entry-level 12-speed group set from Shimano, and XT I feel is the best compromise between price and performance. One of the big changes between the two is on the cassette. On the Dior cassette, it's a full steel body, whereas on the XT, you've got steel and then aluminium, saving a little bit of weight. I also feel it's just a little bit more refined. You've got smoother, crisper shifting, and up at that shifter, you've got the iSpec EV on Dior and XT, but on the XT, you've got a little bit more range just to adjust it and fine tune it. For the brakes, I actually changed from a 4-piston Dior brake to a 2-piston with the XT. Now you're probably thinking, why do I not want that extra stopping power? The Spark is 120 millimeters. I'm not going to be riding really aggressive steep trails where I need the maximum stopping power of the 4-piston. 2-piston is more than enough, and I'm also trying to save as much weight as possible. And by reducing to the 2-piston, I've saved a little bit of extra weight, which definitely makes it easier on those uphills. The bike becomes more maneuverable, and that is the biggest difference between the Dior and the XT group sets. For the wheels and the tires, we went from some wheels that were on a Ransom to putting on these wheels that are perfectly designed for this bike. Got the Faction rim, It's got a 27mm internal width. It gives the tire a really nice profile. The tires are perfectly designed for this bike as well. You've got that knobby neck. It's fast rolling on the rear. It's going to give me really good traction, got good acceleration, got good side knobs that are going to dig in. And then up front, I've paired it with that Magic Mary, which is really going to give me loads of grip on the front wheel. And I feel that this is a perfect setup for this style of bike, for like trail riding, trail centers. And I can go on really big days. I could go on mountain days quite happily and have loads of confidence in the setup that I've got. When it came to comparable differences, what I did feel was that just the weight difference, the faction rim is that little bit lighter, the casing's a little bit lighter with the Super Trail versus the Super Gravity. I just lost some of that rotational weight, which made climbing and throwing the bike around that bit easier. And I'm really, really happy with this setup. I feel it really works well with the whole of the bike and really just makes the bike handle that little bit better. A lot of people talk about carbon rims, talk about the compliance, and I definitely feel that helps. They're stiff laterally, which means I'm pushing to the turns, and they give great support. Overall, I think that upgrading the wheels and the tires is a great starting point when you're upgrading any bike. Overall, I feel that the bike is really set up now with the changes that we made to the suspension, the drivetrain, brakes, wheels, tires, and then in the 4th episode, I really talked about dialing in your bike, the cockpit, the brake levers, getting that bar roll done, stem length correct for you, spacers underneath to get the ride height up or down, and then also getting your seat in the correct position. If you've enjoyed this series, please give it a thumb up, like, comment down below what your favorite upgrade has been, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out in the trails.